Hello there, retro fans. If you're anything like me, when you think back on the NES era, your mind probably drifts towards platformers, action games, and side-scrolling adventures. But the NES also had a quietly solid selection of puzzle games. Titles that didn't always get the spotlight, but definitely deserved a second look. Now, I've got a bit of a confession. A lot of the games on today's list, I didn't actually play them when they first came out. Some of them I only discovered well after the NES era had ended, but that just made finding them all the more special. So today we're diving into the 10 best puzzle games on the NES you might have missed. Some are weird, some are brilliant, and all of them are worth checking out. We're kicking things off with Puzznic, a lesser-known port of a Japanese arcade puzzler by Taito. This one's all about sliding blocks around to match pairs, sort of like a blend of Tetris, Sokoban, and maybe a dash of Lolo. The twist? You can only move the pieces left or right, and once you start pushing them, gravity takes over. It's super satisfying to figure out a tricky layout, especially when you pull it off in just a few moves. The presentation is simple, but the puzzles get surprisingly tough. If you're into spatial reasoning and careful planning, this one's worth tracking down. Next up is Hatris, the weird cousin of Tetris where you stack hats. Yes, seriously. Designed by Alexei Pajitnov himself, the Tetris guy, this game tasks you with catching falling hats and stacking 5 of the same kind to make them disappear. It sounds ridiculous, because it is, but it's also oddly fun. Different hat types stack differently, so you've got to plan your placements ahead of time. Think of it as Tetris with a fashion twist. It might not be the deepest puzzler on this list, but Hatris gets points for charm, originality, and sheer weirdness. Palamedes is one of those puzzle games that blends logic with twitch reflexes. You're rolling dice and trying to match them with numbers coming down from the top of the screen. The faster and more accurately you match them, the better your score. It's kind of got a casino night at math club vibe, but there's something addictive about how fast it moves once you get the hang of it. If you're looking for a puzzle game that keeps you on your toes, Palamedes is worth a roll of the dice. Before Wario became a greedy anti-hero in his own platformers, he starred in this colorful puzzle game released very late in the NES's life. In fact, Wario's Woods was the last licensed NES game released in North America, hitting shelves in 1994. The gameplay is unique. You control Toad directly on the playfield, grabbing and stacking bombs and monsters to make matches. It's got an active, almost action platformer feel to it, unlike anything else on the system. It may have been overlooked at the time, but Wario's Woods has a ton of depth, great music, and that charming late NES polish. Loopz is one of the more abstract entries on the list. You're given puzzle pieces shaped like segments of pipe, and your job is to arrange them into complete loops before the time runs out. It's got a minimalist look and sound, but the core idea is oddly hypnotic. Making those perfect closed loops is super satisfying, and the challenge ramps up at a nice pace. It's not the flashiest game around, but Loopz scratches a very specific puzzle itch, kind of like assembling a jigsaw puzzle under pressure. Don't let the title fool you. Yoshi's Cookie is more than just a cute game. This is a frantic grid-based matching game, where you shift entire rows and columns to line up matching cookies. It's a little like Rubik's Cube meets Tetris Attack. As the screen fills up with delicious-looking pastries, things get tense in a hurry. Luckily, the controls are sharp and responsive, and there's a nice rhythm to the gameplay once you hit your stride. Also, shout out to the soundtrack. Bouncy, weirdly jazzy, and totally unforgettable. This game is the second youngest on today's list, so you can understand why it may have passed by some gamers. Like Wario's Woods, it also saw an SNES version of the game release as well, so some people may be having a Mandela effect moment seeing the more reserved color palette. The title sounds like a forgotten 90s cartoon, but Kickle Cubicle is actually one of the NES's hidden puzzle action gems. You play as a frosty little dude named Kickle, freezing enemies into blocks and pushing them to solve environmental puzzles. It's got that colorful arcade energy that reminds you of Bubble Bobble or Adventures of Lolo, but with a wintry twist. The puzzles start out simple, but by the time you're deep into the game, it's clear just how cleverly designed it really is. Also, top-tier sound effects. Every thunk of an ice block hitting something is just chef's kiss. We couldn't have a puzzle list without Lolo, and Lolo 3 is the cream of the crop. The gameplay builds on the first 2 entries with even more creative room layouts and new mechanics. The formula is simple. Get the heart pieces, open the treasure chest, and don't get shot by the nightmare eyeball statues. Easy, right? Well, no, but that's the fun of it. Every room is a logic puzzle, and each one feels like a little aha moment when you crack it. This is NES puzzling at its purest. Alright, this one's weird in the best possible way. Mendel Palace is the debut game of none other than Game Freak, the team behind Pokemon. But instead of catching monsters, you're flipping floor tiles to knock enemies into walls. It's fast, frantic, and surprisingly strategic. Each enemy type behaves differently, so figuring out how to outmaneuver them is part of the fun. If Lolo is chess, Mendel Palace is air hockey with a mean streak. It's chaotic, creative, and one of the most original games on the NES. Topping this list is Fire and Ice, a criminally underrated puzzler that plays like a dream. This prequel to Solomon's Key has you conjuring and destroying ice blocks to extinguish fire spirits. The mechanics are tight and the puzzles are brilliantly designed. But what really elevates Fire and Ice is the way it makes you feel like a genius when you finally solve a tough level. It's a challenging game, no doubt, but that difficulty is what makes every victory so satisfying. And with clean visuals and a catchy soundtrack, it's the kind of game you'll keep coming back to until you've mastered it. This game released in March 1993, over 2 years after the NES was released in North America. Combining that with branding that didn't quite let people know they were getting something in the Solomon's Key universe, you can kind of understand why people might not have had a chance to try this game. It's a rare game, so if you find it in the wild at a good price, don't hesitate to pick it up. But it's also just a delightful game too, which is why I have it at the top of this list. And there you have it, 10 NES puzzle games that flew under the radar but are absolutely worth your time. Whether you're into fast reflexes, clever mechanics, or just stacking hats for some reason, there's something in this list for you. Did I leave out any of your favorites? Got a puzzle game I should check out next? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more retro goodness. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep that old school spirit alive. Check out our review for Arcade Paradise. It's a very fun, retro-heavy game. If you're into D&D, you can also check out our sister channel, Tellist, where we have plenty of maps on display. And we'll also be refreshing this channel with new retro reviews, so keep an eye out.